Chapter 3886. Chu Yunyao's face was ashen, and her eyes were filled with tears. Once she lost her cultivation, she would become a complete waste. For so many years, she had always been proud of her cultivation. She had never thought that one day her cultivation would be destroyed. Instead of that, she really felt that it was better to die like this. What was the point of living for a waste? For Chu Yunyao's strong despair, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were extremely cold. You can't live if you want to. If Chu Yunyao hadn't caused trouble herself, how could she have fallen to this point? Since she dared to do such a thing at the beginning, she should be prepared to bear all this now. Ying, she can't hurt you anymore, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Shangguan Ying was also surprised that Bailey Hongzhuang acted so neatly. However, Chu Yunyao had humiliated her many times before because she was strong enough. Now that she had lost her cultivation, she felt very happy. Unrighteous deeds are doomed to destruction. Serves you right for ending up like this. Shangguan Ying looked at Chu Yunyao coldly. If it hadn't been for Bailey Hongzhuang's speed, she might have been seriously injured by Chu Yunyao now. Thinking of this, she felt a burst of displeasure and immediately stepped on Chu Yunyao's body again. Chu Yunyao spat out another mouthful of blood. Her injury was very serious. In addition, Bailey Hongzhuang destroyed her cultivation. Her body had already been weak to a certain extent. At this moment, she was only kicked by Shangguan Ying, but she couldn't bear it. You're arrogant. Shangguan Ying's eyes were cold. Let's see how you can be arrogant now. After seeing Chu Yunyao being humiliated like this, Chu Yunshang's eyes flashed with a strong unbearable light. She couldn't help but say, Junior sister Shangguan, Yunyao's cultivation has been destroyed and she has been taught a lesson. Why don't you let her live? No matter what, Chu Yunyao was her sister. Seeing her sister suffer such humiliation, she was also extremely painful in her heart. Hearing this, without waiting for Shangguan Ying to speak, Chu Yunyao had already angrily said, Chu Yunshang, you don't need to come here to pretend to be kind. Since you've already decided to abandon me, why are you pretending to be a good person now? It's none of your business whether I live or die. Chu Yunshang frowned. She couldn't do anything about it. If she could, she really wished that none of this had happened. Shangguan Ying couldn't help but look at Chu Yunshang and said lightly, since Chu Yunyao doesn't appreciate your feelings, you don't need to think too highly of yourself. Since you've already made your decision, why are you still acting like this? She didn't like Chu Yunshang either. If Chu Yunshang decided to completely ignore Chu Yunyao after leaving, she might appreciate it a little. Now she really did it and wanted to set up a chastity memorial arch. She also felt very disgusted. He Yunjun took Chu Yunshang's hand and advised, Yunshang, if you don't want to be buried with Chu Yunyao, then don't say anything. The current situation is not good for us. If you waver your position like this, maybe they will kill you directly. Chu Yunshang nodded helplessly. Now she didn't dare to say anything more. Di Beichen and Duan Huali's battle was in full swing. The tyrannical qi burst out, and wherever it passed it was a mess. Chapter 3887. The more Duan Huali fought, the more shocked he became, because he realized that Di Beichen was so young, but his combat experience was so terrifying. Originally, he thought that even if Di Beichen's strength was comparable to his, he would still have a certain advantage in terms of combat experience. However, Di Beichen's performance was flawless, and he couldn't find a single flaw. This was a bit too terrifying. Could it be that all the cultivators who came out of the demon training tower had such terrifying combat strength? After Di Beichen fought with Duan Huali for a while, he had a certain understanding of Duan Huali's strength, and the coldness in his eyes became more and more intense. In the next moment, Di Beichen and Duan Huali separated. After probing for so long, you still haven't revealed your true strength. Now it's time for us to see the real deal. Di Beichen's voice was cold, and his deep eyes rippled with a cold light. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Duan Huali couldn't help but be stunned, and his eyes flashed with a strong sense of astonishment. Probing. Could it be that he used all his strength to fight with Di Beichen, but to Di Beichen it was just a probe? Is it not? Di Beichen asked back. Duan Huali's expression was a bit ugly. Facing Debachen's words, he couldn't weaken his momentum, and immediately said, "Yes, it's time for us to see the real deal. Today you're the one who's looking for trouble with me. If you die in my hands, don't regret it." Hearing this, Debachen sneered. "You're overestimating yourself. There's only one possibility today, and that is that you'll die in my hands." In the next moment, a vigorous aura erupted from Debachen's body, and a rich blood color mixed with darkness appeared in front of everyone's eyes. A faint smell of blood spread in the air, and Debachen's entire body was shrouded in a bloody aura. However, those who had seen Debachen's bloody aura before would find that the bloody aura he displayed this time was slightly different from usual. "Xiren, why do I feel that Bachen's bloody aura seems to have something more than usual?" Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but look at Xiren with a trace of curiosity in her eyes. Xiren nodded slightly. "I think so too. Maybe it has something to do with Bachen's murderous aura this time." Until now, even they didn't know what effect of murderous aura had. Now that they had the opportunity to see Debachen's display, they were very much looking forward to it. After Debachen displayed the blood chi field, everyone was surprised to find that Debachen's aura had improved. It can't be. This bloody aura is actually so abnormal. Debachen is already a Starlight Realm cultivator, but it can still increase his cultivation. The extent of this increase is too terrifying. This is the power of the blood chi field. That's why there are so many cultivators fighting to be the first to obtain it, but according to what I know, it seems that after a cultivator reaches the Starlight Realm, the bloody aura can only increase their cultivation by one level. This is because the gap between each level is too big. Under everyone's curious gazes, Debachen's aura directly increased from Starlight Realm Level 2 to Starlight Realm Level 3. Seeing this, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Although being able to increase by one level was very shocking, it was still easier to accept than increasing by 2 levels. Chapter 3888. The effect of this blood chi field is really amazing. I'm really envious of it. It's a pity that I didn't have that ability back then. Chu Jinfeng's eyes were filled with envy. When it comes to the ability to fight above one's level, the cultivator who has obtained the inheritance of the blood refining tower is number 1. This is the reason why the blood refining tower is so attractive. Ran Ziheng couldn't help but sigh. A genius inheritor that only appears once every few hundred years. The inheritance he possesses is naturally not something that ordinary people can obtain. It's not surprising that it has such a heaven-defying effect. Ren Zimei nodded. Junior brother D is so young, but now he already has the combat strength of a third-order star magnate. This is really terrifying. Originally, I was a little worried about the result of the fight between him and Duan Huali, but now it seems that he will definitely win. A smile appeared on Ren Zimei's face. Debachen had the means to improve his cultivation, but Duan Huali didn't. As a result, Duan Huali was bound to be at a disadvantage. In today's battle, they had won a complete victory. After Duan Huali saw Debachen's aura improve, his eyes suddenly froze and his face became ugly. He couldn't help but look at Chu Yunyao, who was not far away, only to see that Chu Yunyao was now half dead. Her whole person was already disheartened. To be honest, not only was Chu Yunyao's cultivation destroyed, but she was also seriously injured. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang and the others didn't take her life now, she would definitely not be able to survive. Thinking of this, Duan Huali couldn't help but regret. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have joined in the fun today. Now he was in deep trouble. At this moment, Duan Huali didn't have any intention to continue fighting with Debachen. Originally, he had already used all his skills, but he could only fight to a draw with Debachen. Now that Debachen's aura had increased, he had fallen into a disadvantageous position. He didn't need to fight to know that he would lose. If he was defeated by Debachen, he was afraid that Debachen would not show mercy. After all, he had expressed his interest in Bailey Hongzhuang in front of Debachen. Therefore, Debachen would definitely want to kill him. Duan Huali could not help but look around, his mind wondering if there was a chance for him to escape. Unfortunately, Debachen seemed to have seen through his thoughts. His aura was tightly locked onto him, making it impossible for him to escape. Damn it! Duan Huali cursed in his heart. He really didn't expect that he would fall into such a situation today. No matter what, he couldn't fail at such an easy task. He had to escape today. But as far as the people present were concerned, there was really no one who could help him. Duan Huali, you don't have to think of a way to escape. I won't give you any chance. Di Baichen directly exposed Duan Huali's thoughts. Hearing Di Baichen's words, Duan Huali's face turned cold. He said, I don't have any thoughts of escaping. You're overthinking it. If that's the case, then that's even better. Di Baichen heard this and didn't continue to argue with Duan Huali. In the next moment, the flowing light sword appeared in his hand. With a flash of his body, he charged towards Duan Huali at lightning speed. The difference between the third level and the second level of the star rays was not small. Di Baichen's attack forced Duan Huali to retreat step by step. Ding ding ding. Chapter 3889. The fighting strength of a third-order star magnate was very terrifying. There was only a gap of one order, but Di Baichen's fighting strength at this moment was much stronger than before. Duan Huali was originally able to fight on par with Di Baichen, but at this moment he was completely forced back by Di Baichen. He could only try his best to resist Di Baichen's attack, but there was no possibility of counterattack. Terrifying sword chi burst out in all directions. Wherever the two people passed, sword marks appeared on the ground. It was very terrifying. The surrounding cultivators all quickly retreated. The destructive power of this kind of cultivation was extremely terrifying. After seeing this scene, Niu Zhuang couldn't help but rejoice. Fortunately, he had already decided not to be enemies with Di Baichen. Now it seemed that he really had foresight. If Di Baichen had displayed such strength at that time, he was afraid that he would have died in Di Baichen's hands. The younger generation would surpass the older. At this moment there was only this thought in his mind. At the age of 20, he had broken through to the third-order star magnate. His future potential was really not ordinary. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others stood quietly at the side, watching the battle between Di Baichen and Duan Huali. Chu Yunyao was now half dead and had no influence on them. Instead of directly killing Chu Yunyao, it was better to let her calm down in this pain for a moment. Hongzhuang, Baichen's current strength is really amazing. Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but sigh. When they returned to the outside world again, Situ Yan and the others would be shocked to know that Di Baichen's strength had improved. Yes, Baichen's appearance now is completely different from when he first came to Penglai Island. Xiren's face was filled with emotion, however. This is the Baichen I have always known. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. Baichen's strength improvement is indeed astonishing. Now, the heavenly mandate body has only just shown its ability. In the long run, I'm afraid that our cultivation won't be able to catch up. Even though it was very difficult for her cultivation to catch up with Di Baichen, Bailey Hongzhuang was also very happy. Seeing Di Baichen's strength improve made her happier than her own. Di Baichen's attacks were extremely fierce, and the angle of his sword was also tricky and ruthless. After staying in the demon tower for so long, they took people's lives as soon as they made a move. Only in this way could they win more efficiently. Duan Huali had never been to the demon refining pagoda before, so he was naturally unfamiliar with this kind of fighting style. Under Di Baichen's offensive, he was surrounded by danger. If he was not careful, he could be seriously injured by Di Baichen. This feeling made him extremely uncomfortable. The flowing light sword flew, bringing with it a bloody light. When Di Baichen withdrew the flowing light sword, everyone found that Duan Huali's body had wounds. His originally neat clothes were now covered with bloodstains, and his hair had become extremely messy. Where was the elegant and proud appearance from before? Duan Huali is unlucky today. I'm afraid he will stay here forever. The cultivators present shook their heads and sighed. They didn't expect such an ending. Duan Huali stayed in Penglai Palace. Who knows how many women have been harmed by him? If he dies, it's a good thing. Chu Yunyao happened to be his companion. He won't be lonely on the road to the Yellow Springs. Chapter 3890. Duan Huali's face was gloomy. as black as the bottom of a pot. The pain in his body was far less than the pain in his heart at the moment. In the face of a grasshopper that he could pinch to death that will now control his life and death, this gap was undoubtedly huge. He wanted to let Bailey Hongzhuang know how much stronger he was than Di Beichen, but now the situation was a direct slap to his face. Chu Yunxiang and Chu Yunyao's eyes fell on Duan Huali, and their hearts were full of worry. Chu Yunyao was now completely disheartened, but she didn't want Duan Huali to die like this. If she had been destroyed by Bailey Hongzhuang before, then she wouldn't have asked Duan Huali for help, and wouldn't have dragged Duan Huali into the water. He Yunjun couldn't help but look at Chu Yunxiang beside him. After seeing the deep worry in the latter's eyes, he couldn't help but frown, and a few wisps of unhappiness appeared between his eyebrows. When he pursued Chu Yunxiang, he knew that Chu Yunxiang's heart was tied to Duan Huali, but because of Chu Yunyao they had to separate. He thought that after such a long time, Chu Yunxiang had already changed her mind, but he didn't expect that she was still so worried about Duan Huali at this moment. Could it be that his sincerity these days had no meaning to Chu Yunxiang? Thinking of this, an unspeakable hatred also spread in He Yunjuan's heart. Boom! A shocking sound resounded. Di Beichen and Duan Huali's attacks collided fiercely. The whole ground seemed to tremble, and there was a feeling of heaven and earth shattering. Everyone only saw the two bright lights colliding with each other. Immediately after, they felt the earth-shattering power. They were all shocked. However, amidst the dazzling light, no one knew what was going on with Di Beichen and Duan Huali. It was not until a muffled groan was heard that a figure fell heavily to the ground like a parabola. Everyone's eyes narrowed as they realized that this person was Duan Huali. When everyone saw Duan Huali's miserable appearance, they couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Duan Huali's clothes had long been torn by Di Beichen's sword, revealing bits of blood. Now that they were mixed with dust and mud, he looked even more battered and exhausted. Most importantly, Duan Huali's face was extremely pale. It was obvious that he had suffered a heavy blow. On the contrary, Di Beichen looked as if nothing had happened. He still had a graceful and elegant appearance, without the slightest bit of disorder. This kind of contrast in strength made everyone sigh. "You've lost," Di Beichen said slowly. Following Di Beichen's words, Duan Huali's face became increasingly gloomy, but he couldn't say anything. He had indeed lost, and he had lost very badly. In the next moment, Di Beichen looked at Duan Huali, his eyes cold and indifferent. "Back then I had said that I would definitely kill you. Today I can also fulfill this promise." Duan Huali's pupils suddenly shrank, and he immediately struggled to stand up. He didn't want to die here. However, Di Beichen's movements were extremely fast. With a wave of his right hand, the flowing light sword directly pierced out, mercilessly attacking Duan Huali. Seeing this, Duan Huali immediately wanted to dodge, but unfortunately, he had just been severely injured and couldn't quickly dodge. Chapter 3891. The appearance of this figure was beyond everyone's expectations. Everyone looked at Chu Yunyao, who was standing in front of Duan Huali, in astonishment. The flowing light sword mercilessly pierced Chu Yunyao's body. She couldn't help but groan. Blood overflowed from the corner of her mouth and she slowly fell down. "Yunyao." Duan Huali stared at the figure in front of him in a daze. As if he had been hit by a heavy blow, he quickly stepped forward and caught Chu Yunyao's body. He had never thought that Chu Yunyao would actually stand in front of him. Chu Yunyao looked at Duan Huali, and a smile slowly appeared on her lips. "Huali, it's good that you can still hug me." She looked at Duan Huali's face with infatuation. She reached out her hand and slowly covered it. Her eyes were blurred and happy. "I wanted to do this a long time ago, but you never gave me a chance." "Yunyao." Duan Huali held Chu Yunyao's hand. His eyes were full of pity and pity. "Why are you so stupid?" Chu Yunyao smiled faintly. "I've been abolished and seriously injured. I definitely can't live. It's all my fault. If it weren't for me being too stingy, things wouldn't have turned out like this. Sister is right. You've all let go of this matter. I'm the only one who's still stubborn. It's just that, Huali, for so many years I've never liked anyone until I met you. I'm not as free and easy as you. I can't let go just like that. I Chu Yuniao like someone for a lifetime. Tears slowly fell from the corners of Chu Yuniao's eyes. I know I'm wrong, but if I don't do something related to you, I really can't bear it. Even if you hate me, at least you still remember me. After I leave, don't forget me. Okay? Chu Yuniao stared at Duan Huali and pleaded. Duan Huali nodded repeatedly, his face full of tension. No, you'll be fine. For a long time he only felt that Chu Yuniao was too willful and unreasonable. Compared with Chu Yuniao, Chu Yunshang was undoubtedly much more mature than her. Over the years, Chu Yuniao had been doing these little things. In fact, he was very tired of it, but for the sake of Chu Yunshang he ignored it. However, he forgot one thing. The reason why Chu Yuniao did this was that she cared for him. In contrast, Chu Yunshang's feelings were much lighter than Chu Yuniao's. When Bailey's eyes, a strange look appeared on Yuniao's eyes. They always thought that the reason why Chu Yuniao did this was because of her strong possessiveness, destroying the mutual love between Chu Yunshang and Duan Huali. But they never thought that her feelings for Duan Huali were so strong. Originally, there was a certain distance between Chu Yuniao and Duan Huali. After she was seriously injured, she had already suffered great pain. But after seeing that Duan Huali was injured, she tried to get close to Duan Huali. Until Di Baichen's flowing light sword flew out. Chu Yuniao burst out with a very fast speed and blocked in front of Duan Huali. Thinking about it, only when the person you care about the most is in danger can you burst out with such speed. They only thought that Chu Yuniao was vicious, selfish and ruthless before, but they didn't realize the depth of her feelings for Duan Huali. Chapter 3892. Shangguan Yingying's eyes flashed with a complicated light. She originally hated Chu Yuniao to the extreme. She only thought that this woman was completely crazy. But at this moment, when she heard Chu Yuniao's words before she died, she suddenly felt that Chu Yuniao was a little pitiful. In fact, it was Chu Yuniao who fell in love with Duan Huali first. The two of them fell in love at first sight, but so many things happened because of a strange combination of circumstances. If Duan Huali hadn't recognized the wrong person at the beginning, maybe they would have been a couple envied by everyone now. Unfortunately, in the end, they fell in love with each other and became what they are now. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows also showed a bit of emotion. It was a pity that the two sisters fell in love with the same person. Chu Yuniao's destruction of the relationship between Duan Huali and Chu Yunshang was indeed selfish, but in the end, she liked him too much, so she couldn't let it go. She didn't understand Chu Yuniao at first, but after hearing what the latter said just now, she suddenly understood. Because she liked him too much, she couldn't accept that he was close to any woman except her, because as long as she thought about it, it was unbearable. They all ignored Chu Yuniao's love for Duan Huali. They only thought that she was too willful and unwilling to let it go. But they didn't know that she only loved this person in her life. After seeing Chu Yuniao suffer such a heavy blow, Chu Yunshang also rushed to Chu Yuniao, tears flowing uncontrollably. Yuniao, how are you? Chu Yuniao shook her head. Sister, forgive me for not being so magnanimous. I understand. Chu Yunshang nodded repeatedly. I understand what you said. Even if I die, I still can't accept you being together, and can't accept him as my brother-in-law. Chu Yuniao's face showed a painful look. However, after I die, I should not know anything. Yuniao, you will be fine, you will be fine. Chu Yunshang quickly said, and immediately took out the elixir from her Qiankuan bag and fed it to Chu Yuniao. You will be fine. Chu Yuniao shook her head. Without cultivation, I'm already a cripple. Living is only painful. It's better to die and be free. After I die, I can also walk out of this relationship like you. With that, Chu Yuniao looked at Duan Huali again and asked Huali at the beginning, did you really not like me at all? Sister, is she really so much better than me? No one knew how happy she was when she and Duan Huali fell in love with each other. For more than 20 years, no one had entered her heart until Duan Huali appeared. Everything was so logical. One look was enough to make her remember it for the rest of her life. She thought that it was God's arrangement, that he was the love of her life. But she didn't expect God to play tricks on her. She looked the same as her sister, but she didn't expect that the person she liked would be the same as well. And Chu Yunxiang was Chu Yunyao's fall in love with him. She could not. She knew that she was selfish, but she just wanted to be with Duan Huali. She crazily wanted him to be by her side. As long as he was willing, she was willing to give up everything. Unfortunately, Duan Huali began to hate her. Hearing this, Duan Huali was slightly stunned and couldn't help but look at Chu Yunxiang. Chapter 3893. He had thought that in this matter, he and Chu Yunxiang had been hurt the most, but now it seemed that the most painful person was Chu Yunyao. He had hurt her so deeply, but she still loved him with her life. When Xiren shook his head and sighed, "It's really a sin." If she had told Duan Huali her feelings earlier, she might have been able to get married. But she had to do so many things. A pitiful person must have something to hate. You can't live if you want to. Di Beichen said coldly. Bailey Hongzhuang also agreed. Although Chu Yunyao was pitiful in this relationship, weren't so many women who died in her hands more innocent? In the end, it was because he had taken the wrong path, and he had to be responsible for what he had done. If it weren't for their strength, they would have become ghosts under Chu Yunyao's sword. In the future, it was unknown how many female cultivators would die because of his resentment. I did. Duan Huali held Chu Yunyao's hand tightly. I liked you. Listening to Duan Huali's words, Chu Yunyao's face showed a satisfied smile. As soon as she opened her mouth, she couldn't help coughing. Blood spurted out, and her breath was weak to the extreme. Yunyao. Duan Huali's face was full of tension. He hugged Chu Yunyao tightly. You can't have anything happen to you. It was all my fault before. Chu Yunyao's lips curled into a smile. Her face was pale to the extreme. She reached out and stroked Duan Huali's face. Hearing you say this, I'm already satisfied. Even if you lied to me, I believe it. I'm really happy. Suddenly Chu Yunyao's hand fell down heavily. Duan Huali and Chu Yunxiang were both shocked. However, Chu Yunyao closed her eyes and no longer breathed. Duan Huali and Chu Yunxiang's faces were covered with tears. Duan Huali even hugged Chu Yunyao's body and cried. Everyone sighed when they saw this scene. They didn't expect that it would end up like this. Hongzhuang, do you think Duan Huali is real? Does he really like Chu Yunyao? Shangguan Yingying raised her eyebrows, her eyes full of curiosity. She felt that the love Duan Huali said should be to comfort Chu Yunyao. The one he really liked should be Chu Yunxiang. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment and said, It's true? Ah! Shangguan Yingying was slightly stunned. Why? In fact, Duan Huali didn't know whether he liked Chu Yunyao or Chu Yunxiang, but compared with Chu Yunyao's selfishness and Chu Yunxiang's selflessness, Chu Yunyao was inferior, so Duan Huali liked Chu Yunxiang more. However, Chu Yunxiang was now a couple with He Yunjun, but Chu Yunyao was willing to die for him. This gave him a great impact. At the beginning, didn't Duan Huali like Chu Yunxiang as Chu Yunyao? So he must have liked Chu Yunyao. And I'm afraid he has fallen in love with Chu Yunyao now. It's really unbelievable to talk about love with a playboy like Duan Huali. Ren Zimei shook her head and sighed. She thought that it would be a pleasure to teach Chu Yunyao a lesson today, but she didn't expect to see this emotional scene in the end. Chapter 3894. Duan Huali was immersed in grief, holding Chu Yunyao's body in a daze. He sat there as if he had lost his soul. No one knew what he was thinking. Chu Yunxiang was also sitting aside in a daze. She had always felt that Chu Yunyao was too overbearing and selfish. If it were someone else, she would have ignored them long ago. It was only because of this blood relationship that she could not give up that she had been tolerant and patient. In fact, many times she was also extremely tired of Chu Yunyao, especially when Chu Yunyao accused her of being the third party in their relationship. She was angry and aggrieved. Later, she was forced by Chu Yunyao to separate from Duan Huali. She had also complained and suffered. However, when Chu Yunyao apologized to her just now, her heart felt an unprecedented pain. She began to blame herself for not choosing to quit at the beginning. If she had chosen to quit and let Chu Yunyao succeed, then she would not have ended up like this now. In fact, she had no right to complain about Chu Yunyao's selfishness, because she did not choose to quit at the beginning, which was also a kind of selfishness. However, in the future, her sister would no longer make trouble without reason. Duan Huali, don't think that you can escape death by pretending to be sad here. Xiren suddenly said. Their purpose today was very clear. They wanted to kill Chu Yunyao and Duan Huali. Now that Chu Yunyao was dead, it was Duan Huali's turn. Duan Huali raised his head in a daze, as if he had lost his soul. Obviously, Chu Yunyao's death had given him a great blow. Not long after, Duan Huali stood up and looked at Di Beichen and said, "Since you want to take my life, then do it." Hearing Duan Huali's words, everyone present couldn't help but be stunned. They didn't expect that Chu Yunyao's death would give him such a big blow that he didn't even want his own life. Di Beichen looked at Duan Huali indifferently. His body moved and he didn't hold back. He directly punched Duan Huali's dantian. Duan Huali's figure flew backward and fell heavily to the ground. His face flashed with intense pain. "You should pay for what you've done." Di Beichen's voice was cold. In the end, he didn't even look at Duan Huali. He turned around and walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. Holding Bailey Hongzhuang's hand, he said, "Let's go back." Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were a little surprised by Di Beichen's decision. However, since Di Beichen had already said so, they naturally had no objections. Okay. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and turned to leave with Di Beichen. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others leave, everyone present couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. Today's battle was really too lively. Di Beichen didn't kill Duan Huali directly, but just abolished his cultivation. It's really unexpected. In fact, what's the difference between abolishing his cultivation and killing him? It's just that he's still alive, but he's no longer as powerful as before. It's impossible for him to continue to stay in the Penglai Palace. With such cultivation, I'm afraid that he would have died before he could leave the Penglai Palace. Everyone shook their heads and sighed. At the beginning, the relationship between Duan Huali and the other two caused a shock. Now the ending was also amazing. Chapter 3895. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others slowly walked towards their residence. Today, they had just returned to Penglai Palace and had already dealt with two big opponents. It was really very satisfying. "Beichen, why didn't you kill Duan Huali directly?" Bailey Hongzhuang turned her head and looked at Di Beichen's perfect side profile. She couldn't help but ask. Di Beichen glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang, and the corners of his mouth slowly raised into a smile. "In fact, if I kept him alive, he would be in more pain." "Why?" Shangguan Yingying also asked curiously. It wasn't until Chu Yunyao was about to die that he realized that the person he liked the most was Chu Yunyao. Unfortunately, there was no chance to keep her. Presumably, he should be deeply regretting his wrong choice now. Since he was originally not a fickle person, he would definitely be in incomparable pain now that he has come to his senses. To him, death is actually a kind of relief. Ren Ziheng suddenly said, "Junior brother Di, am I right?" Di Beichen nodded, "Yes. Do you want Duan Huali to be immersed in pain so you didn't take his life?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked. "He has done so many wrong things. If I let him die so easily, wouldn't it be too easy for him?" Di Beichen asked. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head and sighed. "Beichen, you are really too two-faced. I thought you felt that Duan Huali was a little pitiful, so you left him alive." Di Beichen chuckled. "If I really felt that he was pitiful, then I wouldn't have destroyed his cultivation. In this way, he might still be able to walk together with Chu Yunshang in the end. Crippling his cultivation is the same as completely destroying all his hopes. That's the most painful thing." He didn't care what reason Duan Huali had for coveting Bailey Hongzhuang. As far as he was concerned, he wouldn't let go of anyone who had crooked thoughts about Bailey Hongzhuang. What's more, Duan Huali wanted to take their lives, but he didn't succeed. For such a guy, no matter how pitiful he was, he would not sympathize with him. "Beichen, I really admire you more and more recently." Xiren couldn't help but sigh. "But you are right, a guy like him should be punished." "In my opinion, I'm afraid that Duan Huali won't live for long," Mo Yunjue said slowly. Listening to Mo's words, the crowd couldn't help but be a little surprised. Junior brother Mo, why would you say that? Renzime asked. Juzes Ju kill him. With his life. Chu Jinfeng nodded. As long as it's a cultivator of our level, once their cultivation is crippled, most of them won't want to live anymore. Moreover, after receiving such a blow from Chu Yunyao, the possibility of him committing suicide is not small. It's good that he's dead. This way we can give an explanation to those cultivators who died in their hands for no reason. Ren Ziheng said. Forget it, now that this matter has been resolved, there's no need to affect our good mood. Chu Jinfeng's face revealed a smile. You guys just came back today, so we have to celebrate for you guys. At the same time, tell us about the interesting things about the Demon Refining Tower, and let us experience it. Chapter 3896. After the death of Chu Yunyao, the combat power of Bailey Hongzhuang and others quickly spread in the Penglai Palace. With this kind of combat power, their team was already considered an extremely tyrannical existence in the Penglai Palace. A few days later, as everyone guessed, Duan Huali committed suicide after Chu Yunyao was buried. After he died, it was Chu Yunshang who buried him with Chu Yunyao. They couldn't be together when they were alive, but at least they could be together after death. After this news came out, the cultivators in the Penglai Palace all sighed. They suddenly felt that it was extremely difficult to meet a lover. On the contrary, it facilitated many lovers in the palace to be together. On this day, Bailey Hongzhuang and others went to Long Yanwei's residence together, because today was the day Mo Yunjue chose a contract beast. When they arrived, as expected, not only Long Yanwei was there, but Yizihua was also there. Mintery, why are you so free every day? When Xiren couldn't help but tease, every time we come to find Master Long, you seem to be here? Hearing this, Yizihua frowned. What? You stinking brat dare to have a problem with me? How dare I? When Xiren quickly waved his hand, knowing that Mentor E is so concerned about us, we can't be happier. In this way, in addition to Master Long, there is also Mentor E as a pillar. You are such a smooth talker. Yizihua pretended to be helpless, but a smile appeared in his eyes. At first he really didn't care much about these guys, but as he gradually became familiar with them, he became more and more optimistic about these little guys. Now Di Beichun, Bailey Hongzhuang and Mo Yunjue have all become Star Realm cultivators, and their future is really limitless. Although Xiren and Shangguan Yingying's cultivation is a little worse, it should only be a matter of time. After all, their cultivation talent is there. You little fellows really can't stop once you come back. Long Yanwei helplessly looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Although he already knew that there was a huge conflict between Bailey Hongzhuang and Chu Yunyao, he did not expect that even Duan Huali would be involved in this matter. It wasn't easy for them to recruit an Astral Radiance Realm cultivator, but they didn't expect to lose a rank 2 Astral Radiance Realm Duan Huali in the blink of an eye. He felt very helpless about this. Any cultivator in the Starlight Realm was a top-notch cultivator in the Penglai Palace. The death of even one person was a great loss to the Penglai Palace. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Lord Long, this matter should be within your expectations. If there is hatred, then there is hatred. If there is hatred, then there is hatred. Alas! Long Yanwei sighed. I know that you guys are the ones who don't stop. As soon as you came back, you made such a big commotion. After the palace master knew about it, he specially came over to ask me. What did the palace master say? Shangguan Yingying quickly asked. I have already spoken to the palace master, but in the future you guys should calm down a little. No matter which force it is, a Star Realm cultivator is an important resource. It can't withstand your torment. And Lord Long, don't worry. We are not people who like to cause trouble. It's just that some people deliberately came to find trouble with us, so we took action. It was said that the sales of this healing medicine were excellent. Even if so many doctors in Penglai Palace made it together, there was still a situation where it was sold out. Now, all the forces in Penglai Island were buying this healing medicine. The degree of popularity was very shocking just by listening to it. Bailey Hongzhuang was able to get 30% of it, so the number of spirit stones must be very shocking. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and opened the Qingkuan bag. When she saw the number of spirit stones inside, her eyes couldn't help but reveal a look of surprise. According to what I know, the dark magic fox's body is pitch black, and it's extremely fast. It's used for sneak attacks, and it's often hard to guard against. Its claws and teeth are sharp, and it moves silently. Many people have described it as the killer of demon beasts. Di Baichen slowly said. In my opinion, with their current momentum, no one in the Penglai Palace will be able to stop them in the future. You're right about this. If we can't please them when we see them in the future, we definitely can't offend them. How tragic was the fate of Duan Huali and the others? A rank 2 starlight cultivator directly became a cripple. In the end, he killed himself. No matter what, we must not repeat the same mistake. Following Renzime's words, everyone instantly recalled what they had seen the day before. Their gazes couldn't help but wander between Su Yingxue and Mo Yunjue. Facing everyone's gazes, Mo Yunjue's expression remained cold as if nothing had happened. Chapter 39:16. Faced with everyone's guesses, Mo Yunjue did not even bat an eye at them, as if this had nothing to do with him. He had never thought that he would be so popular after coming to Penglai Palace. To other men this might be a very enjoyable thing, but to him it was just trouble. Because of this, he rarely went to other places other than the cultivation area and his residence to avoid attracting more trouble. As for the Su Yingxue that everyone was talking about, he only remembered that there was such a person. He didn't even know her name. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest noticed this, they couldn't help but quicken their steps. Since it was true, they would only attract unnecessary trouble if they continued to move forward together. It was better for them to separate. However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest quickened their steps, a voice suddenly rang out from Su Yingshue's group. I never thought that Junior Mo, who has been in the limelight recently, would also be a liar. What a pity. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest couldn't help but stop in their tracks. Their gazes turned towards the cultivator who had spoken. Su Yingxue and the rest clearly didn't expect someone to suddenly speak, and immediately turned their heads. After seeing the person who had spoken, Su Yingshue's face darkened. Zheng Haiping, why are you causing trouble for no reason? He Bingrui couldn't help reprimanding him. Zheng Haiping glanced at He Bingrui, but his gaze couldn't help but land on Su Yingxue. When he saw that Su Yingxue had her head lowered and didn't speak, the unhappiness in his heart became even stronger. What? Did I say something wrong? Zheng Haiping looked unconvinced. After glancing coldly at Mo Yunjue, he said, previously, when Yingxue went to ask him, he clearly said that he had no intention of coming to the training ground. Yet we met here today. If this isn't a lie, then what is? Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest frowned slightly. Their gazes landed on Zheng Haiping. They never thought that such a thing would happen at such a time. Let's go. Mo Yunjue's face was cold. He had no intention of paying attention to Zheng Haiping's words, as if the person Zheng Haiping was talking about was not him. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other. Since Mo Yunjue didn't have any objections, they didn't care anymore. When Zheng Haiping saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were planning to leave, he became even more motivated. I was wondering how powerful he was. He's just a coward. He doesn't even dare to speak now. I really don't know if those women who like him are blind. Zheng Haiping secretly spat, his face full of disdain. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but frown. They all knew that this matter had nothing to do with Mo Yunjue. Previously, when Su Yingxue had gone to find Mo Yunjue, they hadn't mentioned going to the training ground. Therefore, it was reasonable for Mo Yunjue to say such words. It was only after they had mentioned this matter that Mo Yunjue had agreed. It was also unexpected for them to meet here today. Chapter 39:17. This Zheng Haiping is also an inner palace disciple, and his abilities are not bad. Among Su Yingshue's pursuers, he's one of the most famous. Basically, everyone knows about him. However, Su Yingxue doesn't seem to have any feelings for him, so even if he pursues her passionately, Su Yingxue has never responded, Renzime said slowly. Hearing that, Shang Guanying instantly understood. So he's treating Yunju as his love rival. He has pursued Su Yingxue for so long without any results. On the contrary, Su Yingxue directly invited Yunju, so it's normal that he can't take it. Renzime nodded slightly, that's right. He must be extremely angry after knowing about this. Now that he's met junior brother Mo, it's natural for him to mock him. This person is definitely crazy. What does him not being able to pursue Su Yingxue have to do with Yunju? Shangguan revealed a look of disdain. He can't pursue her because he doesn't have the ability. Yet he's blaming others for being charming. What a joke. Forget it, let's go. Mo Yunjue's brows revealed a hint of displeasure, but more of it was coldness. He had no thoughts about suing Xue and didn't plan to get into any trouble because of this woman. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest frowned. Zheng Haiping's words were undoubtedly provoking them, but it was more of a provocation between love rivals. To this, if Mo Yunjue could take it, they naturally didn't plan to stand out. After all, Zheng Haiping was someone who liked to cause trouble. If they were to bother with him, there would be a lot of trouble. Let's not bother with these senseless people and just leave. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was cold. She hated this kind of man the most. Only the person involved knew about love. If he couldn't pursue her, he would start to find trouble with others. This was a problem of tolerance. When Zheng Haiping saw that Mo Yunjue was ignoring him, he couldn't help but become even more anxious. Yingxue, look at this guy. He's just a coward. I've already said so much and he still doesn't dare to bother with me. What exactly is it about him that made you have a whole new level of respect for him? Zheng Haiping looked at Su Yingxue with a pleased and puzzled expression. Mo Yunjue not paying any attention to him was an act of a coward. Coincidentally, he could use this chance to perform well in front of Su Yingxue and let her know who was the real man between him and Mo Yunjue. Su Yingxue's expression was already very ugly, and when she heard Zheng Haiping's words, she became even more displeased. Su Yingxue raised her head and saw Mo Yunjue's cold expression from beginning to end, as if he wasn't concerned about this matter. She couldn't help feeling a chill in her heart. This was the first time she had taken the initiative to develop feelings for a man. She didn't expect the other party to ignore her. It really hurt her self-esteem. He didn't expect that Mo Yunjue would suddenly make things difficult for him, so he didn't have time to react and was sent flying. Seeing this, everyone present couldn't help but be stunned. No one had expected that Mo Yunjue, who hadn't said a word, would suddenly make a move and be so ruthless. Su Yingxue and He Bingrui looked at each other in dismay. A second ago, they thought that Mo Yunjue didn't have any temper, but in the next second, they felt that Mo Yunjue's temper wasn't small at all. Chapter 39:19. Ren Ziheng and Chu Jinfeng were also stunned on the spot. They looked at Mo Yunjue with a dull gaze. This reaction was completely different from his previous attitude, so much so that they couldn't react for a while. Shangguan Yingying was also stunned. She couldn't help but swallow her saliva as she looked at Mo Yunjue in astonishment. Yunjue, it's fine if you don't make a move, but once you make a move, looking at Shangguan Yingying's stunned expression, Xiren chuckled and whispered in her ear, Yingying, you forgot that Yunjue is the young master of Shirtian Pavilion. Don't you know how Shirtian Pavilion usually acts? Shangguan Yingying immediately understood what was going on when she heard this. Shirtian Pavilion had always been a swift and decisive force. They didn't talk much, but every time they did something it was very shocking. It seemed that Mo Yunjue was indeed worthy of being the young master of Shirtian Pavilion. His way of doing things was completely the same as his sex. Zheng Haiping was lying on the ground. He felt that his internal organs had almost shifted under that palm. His body was burning with pain, and even breathing became difficult. Just as he was about to sit up, Zheng Haiping spat out a mouthful of blood. Then, his face quickly became pale, and his spirit was dispirited to the extreme. He looked at Mo Yunjue in disbelief. Although he knew that Mo Yunjue had obtained the inheritance of the demon training tower, in his opinion, Mo Yunjue's strength shouldn't be very strong. However, when the other party made a move like this, he knew that he had completely underestimated Mo Yunjue's strength. This kind of strength was definitely above the Starlight realm. At least he wasn't Mo Yunjue's opponent at all. Unfortunately, even if he knew this at this moment, it was too late. The intense pain in his body told him that he was seriously injured, and he couldn't even stand up. At this time, Mo Yunjua coldly glanced at Zheng Haipeng, and then said to Ran Zimei and the others, "Against this kind of trash, there's no need to waste your breath. It's just a waste of time." His handsome face was full of indifference, as if this matter had not attracted his attention at all, as if he had just casually dealt with an insignificant grasshopper. "We can go now." He had originally planned to ignore it, but Zheng Haipeng was relentless and kept looking for trouble. Ran Zimei and the others couldn't stand it anymore. Since that was the case, he might as well directly solve this problem and get it done once and for all. Otherwise, there would be flies buzzing around his ears. Ran Zimei and the others couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. The two smiled faintly and said, "Since the matter has been resolved, then let's go." "All right." Shangguan Yingying nodded. Now there's no annoying guy chattering there. Chapter 39-21. Suing Xue blushed. She felt that Mo Yunjua was the man of her dreams. He had such powerful strength and a swift and decisive style. He was the type she liked the most. That serious look was deeply imprinted in her heart. She felt that he was exceptionally handsome. Seeing Suing Xue like that, He Bingrui understood her thoughts and couldn't help but shake her head helplessly. "Looking at your situation, it seems that you have really fallen for him. Before today, I might have only had a good impression of him, but after today's incident, I really like him." Suing Xue clasped her hands together, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Her mind was filled with Mo Yunjua's appearance, and she felt that her life was suddenly filled with brilliance. Her entire person was immersed in pink happiness. This Mo Yunjua doesn't look like someone easy to deal with. He was so ruthless the moment he made a move. He's definitely a ruthless character. He Bingrui couldn't help but say. Suing Xue nodded. "I know what you're saying, but I feel that it's precisely because of his appearance that he's exceptionally charming. You're right. He's indeed more manly than ordinary men." After thinking for a moment, He Bingrui agreed with Suing Xue's opinion. After all, compared to Zheng Haipeng, who only knew how to talk big, Mo Yunjua's way of doing things was much more domineering. In my opinion, this Mo Yunjua is also a person of few words, so there must be very few women who can get close to him. Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying already have lovers, and Ren Zimei is now with Chu Jinfeng. As such, Mo Yunjua is completely alone. Since you like him, you have to seize the opportunity. There are many women in Penglai Palace who admire him. He Bingrui said. Suing Xue nodded with a smile. "I won't give up." After Bailey Hongzhuang and her group left Suing Xue's group, they continued to move forward. "I didn't expect Zheng Haipeng to be so narrow-minded. He deserves to be taught a lesson today. It's just that this fellow usually has a big mouth. I don't know if he will spread it around later." Renzime frowned. She had a certain understanding of Zheng Haipeng. This guy had always been a blabbermouth. Many things would change completely once they reached his mouth. This time, Mo Yunjua had seriously injured him. Whether it was because of his face or other reasons, he would not let this matter go so easily. Zheng Haipeng has already learned his lesson. I believe that he won't have the guts in the future. Otherwise, if Yunju attacks again, wouldn't his injuries be even more serious? Chu Jinfeng said with a smile. However, what Mo Yunjua said next stunned them. "You don't have to worry about that because he won't be able to speak in the future." As soon as Mo Yunjua said this, Ran Zimei and the others were stunned. For a moment, they couldn't understand the true meaning behind his words. "Junior brother Mo, according to what you said, could it be that Zheng Haipeng?" Ren Ziheng couldn't help but say. "That's right. He's already a dead man." Mo Yunjua's expression was indifferent and cold, as if he was talking about something insignificant. "Oh." Chu Jinfeng swallowed his saliva and looked at Mo Yunjua in a daze. Su Yingxue shook her head, a hint of panic on her face. I don't know. We can only try our best to escape with everyone. Everyone run. This time the range of the skeleton army is very scary. I'm afraid that there will be more liches. If we don't leave now, we won't have another chance later. In the team, a rather experienced cultivator hurriedly shouted out. Chapter 39-24. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest looked at Su Yingxue and the rest who were escaping at full speed. Even though they had already used their fastest speed, the skeleton army was like a swarm of locusts, coming out from the ground endlessly. Even though their movements didn't seem fast, they were actually very fast. If the situation continued to develop, the possibility of Su Yingxue and the rest escaping wasn't high. Su Yingxue and the rest are really unlucky. The place where they were resting just happened to be where the hole appeared. In such a short period of time, only 6 out of 10 people are left. Ren Zimei couldn't help but lament. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest observed the situation in front of them silently. From what they could see, there was only one hole for the time being. Even though there were quite a number of skeletons, the situation was definitely much better than what they had encountered previously. So this is the skeleton army. Mo Yunjue stared at the numerous skeletons that had appeared in front of him. It was as though the end of the world had arrived, and everything in front of him was darkness. The eerie white skeletons walked in the darkness, giving off cracking sounds. Everywhere they passed by, not even a blade of grass grew, and not a single living thing was left behind. The situation was indeed as described by Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest, making them tremble in fear. However, only after witnessing the situation with their own eyes would they understand how shocking it was. Di Beichen nodded. The abilities of these skeletons are very strong. Luckily, there are many cultivators on Penglai Island blocking them. Otherwise, if they were to go to the outside world, the consequences would be unimaginable. Every skeleton had a cultivation above the purple realm, and cultivators above the purple realm in the outside world were already rare existences. If these skeletons were to appear in the outside world, it would definitely be a disaster. Hearing that, Mo Yunjue's gaze turned grave, and he instantly understood the meaning behind Di Beichen's words. Indeed, compared to these dead things, the cultivators in the outside world can't even withstand a single blow. Should we go and help? Ren Zimei couldn't help but ask. If it was any other cultivator, they would have gone to help at the first moment, but they hadn't expected it to be Su Yingxue and the rest. This would depend on Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. At this moment, Su Yingxue and the rest who were running for their lives noticed Bailey Hongzhuang and her group standing far away and instantly saw hope. Help! He Bingrui hurriedly shouted. Junior brother Mo, help us! Su Yingxue also said. Ren Zimei subconsciously looked at Mo Yunjue. She still needed to see what Mo Yunjue was thinking. Compared to Su Yingxue's fervent gaze, Mo Yunjue's face was filled with coldness.